This week, we welcome Jessica Hoffman, Deputy CISO at the City of Philadelphia, to discuss emotional intelligence for cyber leaders. In our second segment, we air two pre-recorded interviews from RSA Conference 2024 from Sempiris and Oxia Cyber. Business Security Weekly starts now.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
It's the show where we explore the business of security to improve the security of business. Your trusted source for actionable insights on leadership, communication, and innovation. Get ready for Business Security Weekly. Why is identity resilience a top priority for security executives? Because your identity access management, or IAM system, is critical to your business. Whether you use Okta, Microsoft Entra, or another IDP, if your IAM is attacked, your operations can go down for hours or days, directly impacting your bottom line. So what's your backup plan? Mighty ID is here to save the day, reinforcing your IAM resilience. With flexible backup and recovery, and even migration between IDPs, Mighty ID keeps business running when failure is not an option. Check out Mighty ID at securityweekly.com/Mighty ID for more. Let's talk about something that's becoming increasingly important for enterprise companies worldwide: cyber risk management. Traditionally, cyber risk has been managed manually in silos, separate from the business's core operations. The future is about getting real-time risk insights benchmarked against your industry peers through automation. And CyberSaint's CyberStrong platform is leading the charge. CyberStrong is not just another point solution. It's a revolutionary platform. It's a quantified top-down risk approach where your unique cyber risks inform C-suite decision-making to identify your top 5 cyber risks and the controls to mitigate them. Sign up for your free cyber risk analysis by visiting securityweekly.com/cybersaint. Did you know that Active Directory is exploited in 9 out of 10 cyber attacks? With access to Active Directory, attackers can gain control of your network. To keep attackers out, you need to find and fix Active Directory security gaps. Meet Purple Knight, a free security assessment tool that scans your environment for hundreds of vulnerabilities and helps you fix the problems. Ready to reduce your Active Directory attack surface? Download Purple Knight, the #1 Active Directory security vulnerability assessment tool. Visit securityweekly.com/Sempiris. Welcome to Business Security Weekly. This is episode number 352, recorded June 3rd, 2024. I am your host, Matt Alderman. We're back from the holidays. Joining me for the segment are my co-hosts. First, Mr. Jason Albuquerque. Hey, Jason.
Hey, how we doing, Matt? It's been an exciting couple of weeks. I went down to Williamsburg, Virginia for soccer tournament for my son, and their team took it all. They took home the trophy. So far, we're capping off the season with some good wins. But coming up Thursday, it's going to be Dallas against Boston. It starts the NBA Finals. I'm excited.
Yeah, we got a little rivalry going this year.
That's it. Place our bets.
Yeah, I'm betting on the Celtics, by the way.
Sweet. All right, we're in the same camp. I won't steal your money.
All right, good. Also joining for this segment, Mr. Ben Carr. Hey, Ben.
Hey, Matt, how you doing? Yeah, we were reminiscing about some construction issues, but yeah, I'm doing well. Looking forward to getting into this and kind of forgetting about other things.
Yeah, do you stay dry down there? We've had so much rain up here. Like
it's been on and off, right? It's been we have had a lot more rain than we've expected, which has been wildflowers like every couple weeks. It seems like a new set goes in, and I'm trying to wait to mow until they're all down. But yeah, it's been a crazy wet spring.
Yeah, we had some nasty storms blow through yesterday. Anyways, staying dry though. Dive into cybersecurity with Cyber Risk Alliance for exclusive insights from RSA Conference 2024. Explore executive interviews with industry leaders, uncovering visionary perspectives on threats and strategies. Delve into curated articles on trends and innovations, equipping yourself with essential knowledge for today's cyber landscape. Visit securityweekly.com/RSAC for expert guidance and inspiration in navigating cybersecurity challenges confidently. Jessica Hoffman is currently serving as the Deputy CISO at the City of Philadelphia. Jessica is a certified information security professional with over 15 years of information technology and cybersecurity experience in both the government and private sectors. The majority of those years have been in audit and compliance. Jessica has dedicated her career to the safety, privacy of millions of Americans' personally identifiable information, protected healthcare information, and federal tax information. She is also a professor at Harrison University and the Pennsylvania State University. Jessica, welcome to Business Security Weekly.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate you having me.
Now, I did not wear my Ohio State Buckeyes shirt today out of respect for your Penn State affiliation.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And you also left off the last sentence of my bio that I enjoy long walks on the beach. So, that's just as important as, Penn State being better than Ohio. So thanks.
Yeah, no worries. So, all right, we're going to talk emotional intelligence. Now, as we were prepping for this, we've covered a lot of emotional intelligence articles on this show because of our leadership and communication segment. But Jason, I can't remember the last time we've actually done an interview segment on emotional intelligence.
I know. This is I'm excited for this. Definitely excited. Because just with Jessica's background, I mean, just to put it out there, tremendous amount of respect. I spent 10 years in the public sector side of the aisle. I'm a certified government chief information officer, led IT for municipalities and multiple agencies. I mean, Jessica, you must be dealing with 100 different entities in the city of Philadelphia, right? Between boards and commissions and committees. I mean, if you think about it this way, and just to offer a little bit of perspective for the listeners, every single one of these departments, committees, boards runs like their own little business. So Jessica needs to understand, we talk about this all the time on Business Security Weekly, we need to be able to understand the business. So think about it from a CISO's perspective, where Jessica needs to understand 100 little micro businesses within the city of Philadelphia. Things like health and human services, planning and development, public safety, right? Think of police, fire, emergency management, all the way out to dealing with utilities, power, water, gas, electric, zoning, right? For probably library systems, if I'm guessing. Now, let's talk on top of that, the pressures. In the government, you have things like Freedom of Information Act, where you have to provide information to citizens or people requesting it in a certain time period. Open meetings laws, dealing with unions, right? That's its own animal, own legal and contractual obligations that they have. And then from there, you have citizens, activist groups, and hey, by the way, politicians, which can be their own job. So,
Jason, are you trying to convince people to go into public service? I'm confused.
No, what I'm trying to say is that the skill set, and I am trying to, because we need more people who will dedicate their lives to the public, to our citizens, right? And really bring that professionalism back into government. So what I'm trying to say is a tremendous amount of respect for Jessica and what she does, because she's managing 100 different businesses on top of the pressures that I just talked about. So like I said, been there, done that. Tremendous amount of respect for you, Jessica. So thank you for what you do. Not many people say that to folks in the public sector, but thank you for everything you do.
Well, I appreciate that, Jason. And you are 100% spot on. Like, the amount of different personalities you got to deal with on top of the different businesses. And you hit it on the head, as well as you have critical services, district attorney's office, law, down to public safety, libraries, airport, you name it. We have to look at it from a critical service perspective, obviously prioritizing our business needs. But, all of the services we provide to the citizens of Philadelphia are critical to their way of life. On top of that, smart cities, which is really great too, right? That's where we're going. All the major cities, and Philadelphia being the 6th largest city in the world. We have 35,000 employees, over 50 departments, 1.6 million citizens. It's a lot, but I'll tell you what, Jason, everybody, I love it so much. It is so rewarding. I chose this life. I chose public service. I encourage folks as well. Usually right out of college, come on to the public service side. It's a great opportunity to learn so much, right? Because you can have your hands in all the different areas like we just mentioned. And then you want to go to private industry and make a bunch of money, go ahead, right? And then come back to us later on. And that's kind of what I did. I went out in public. I was public at first with the federal government, and then I went out to the private sector. And it absolutely put me into a position to be able to grow technically, my certifications, all that, but also understand what it means to be a trusted advisor. And I do attribute that experience being an auditor for mainly federal organizations. I do attribute that time to really helping to mold like what my emotional intelligence is now. So when I started looking at this topic, actually, this really fell in my lap last fall. And I was like, emotional intelligence, what is that exactly? I was like, that sounds really interesting. And then when I started reading up on it, as far as it being maybe 5 core things: self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. And I started thinking about what my leadership style is, what my mentorship style is, how I work with people. And I realized, being an auditor, I had to deal with so many different types of people there too, right? And nobody wants to hear they have a high finding, or nobody wants to hear their baby's ugly, nobody. There's so many different sensitive areas when you're performing an audit, and understanding what that means to perform and exceed expectations of the customer. I really believe in my heart that that's what made me a better cyber professional, and just a well-rounded professional in general. And now that I'm back in the public service, I am able to bring those skills. And Jason, you mentioned bringing professionalism back, and that's exactly what my goal is, to bring that back to the city of Philadelphia, and be able to share those experiences, because our citizens are our clients, right? We are providing a service to the city. So it is incredibly rewarding, very challenging. Every day
Yeah.
is fun,
Yep.
but it's great.
And Jessica, I mean, emotional intelligence is so important for all those different aspects that we covered, right? I mean, you're dealing with so many different personalities whose business goals are so different and sometimes conflicting with each other, right? So being able to refine your level of self-awareness, your ability to kind of regulate your emotions when you're dealing with different entities, because you may be working with a department head who also has a union representative, and they both have two different missions, right? So now
Absolutely.
you have to be on when you're having those conversations and really be able to regulate. And to be honest with you, the motivation piece is huge, right? You hit the nail on the head. You wanted to go back into public service, so you have the passion to want to go back and want to give and bring that professionalism back and bring all these traits back in. So again, kudos to that. But it is so important, especially in a leadership role within the public sector.
So, Jessica, what I want to frame a little bit, I mean, this is a great opening because Jason's experience ties very well into this. But if we step back just for a second, like, why emotional intelligence? What is it? Why are we even talking about it? Because I think some people, like you said, until last fall, you're like, hey, what is this thing, right? And I think some of our audience has the same thing. Like, what is emotional intelligence? Why should I care about emotional intelligence?
Yeah, great question. And I don't think this is anything new necessarily. Obviously, all of us are different, right? We all have different styles of learning. We have different listening styles, different interests, everything, right? But at the same time, we all have to work together. And gone are the days where you could work in the corner by yourself and nobody bothers you. Everybody needs to have some level of communication and respect for their teammates, whether it's professionally, personally. I mean, we all have to work together in this day and age. It's just we're in a different era now too, right? It's not one person going to work, no internet, no cell phone. It's just the tech is just way too advanced that we can ignore the fact that we're dealing with people of very diverse backgrounds in different areas of the world. I mean, just we have so much uniqueness amongst our team. I mean, my team alone, I have pretty much every culture covered on my team, right? So why is it important now more than ever? I think it's because of that diversity and the reach that we have in this industry. And when it comes to cybersecurity, IT in general, I mean, we're functioning in a very high stress environment. And we have to make sure that we're handling our day-to-day responsibilities, but also being reactive and proactive, right? I mean, that's our ultimate goal, to be proactive. So when we're talking about having a leader that's emotionally intelligent and understands their team, that means they're not freaking out when the ish hits the fan and we have an incident, they stay calm, cool, and collective. And to Jason's point about the different departments, understanding which departments are going to blow out of proportion every single time. And, but rightfully so. Maybe they don't understand fully. Maybe they have more regulatory data, right? But just understanding, being aware of their needs and how they react. So internally with the team, being able to make sure that the communication is there. You don't have to tell me that your health problems or every single thing you're doing, but if you just had kids or something, you have an obligation. All right, I'm empathetic. I have kids. Okay, cool. You have some health care. Fine, great. Put it on your calendar. Take care of yourself. That's the most important. But there are some managers out there, and this is kind of foreign to me because I guess maybe I've been pretty blessed, but I've heard stories of managers that were like, first of all, managers, not leaders, more managers, and they just don't care. You do the work. I don't care what your situation is. And that makes for a higher stress environment. You don't feel safe. You don't feel comfortable. You don't feel that collaboration. So I don't think this is anything new, but I do think that a lot of people, and even I dare to say some of the old school folks, maybe it was a different time then, right? You come into work 9 to 5, you bust your butt, you work 30 years and you retire, right? It's not like that anymore. We're dealing with generations that jump to 6-8 months going to a new job. Everybody wants to work remote, which is cool. You're on the Zoom call on the beach, fantastic. I don't really care as long as you get your work done, right? But the point is that with understanding emotional intelligence and how as a leader that really can help drive the success of your team by creating that safe space for collaboration, for communication, for support, knowing that you have your back. And that's not going to come overnight, right? So I just want to caveat with that. You've got to actually get to know your people too. And that's where, there's some people are more introverted and they might not want to talk to people. So there's a combination when we're talking about a good leader. And I also say mentor, putting those two together, because I believe, go hand in hand. If you're a good leader, you're also mentoring your people, right? And that's an opportunity for you to help them excel in their career, and as well as get to know them and know their goals, understand them. And that's how you're able to be empathetic and have that communication and be able to support them.
So Jessica,
Yeah,
I'm interested. You mentioned mentorship, and I think, how do you think this actually rolls out and affects kind of ICs and people who are, kind of in the general frontline side of the house, right? Not just managers, not just leaders, not just directors and CISOs and CIOs, but I think as people come up, like, what do they need to focus on? Like, why is emotional intelligence important to them, right? As I see it, there's been maybe a shift back. People thought, oh, remote work, I don't have to engage with people, right? I can work out of my quiet, cubby, dark office and at home, and I don't think that's the case. I think it actually amps it up more. Would you agree with that? I mean, you have to be more emotionally intelligent if you don't have that face-to-face contact where you're picking up on some of those cues. So what would you advise somebody kind of on the front side of their career about the importance of that?
Yeah, that's a great point, Ben. I'm a little different. I'm an extrovert, but I've always kind of operated nonchalant, like, when maybe they're having a bad day. And that's kind of would be my advice to that. Just, somebody might be having a bad day, just let it go. If maybe they're consistently boobs, I don't know, but maybe they're just having a bad day, and so don't take things so personally. And to your point, Ben, when we're on tech, a Zoom or there's no video, you can't see anybody's expression, right? We have to go out our way to contact people. I totally agree with you on that. So it's more important that we do understand who we're working with, what their styles are. So as far as having, that team building, there's a lot of creative ways that people are doing that for remote work. And whatever you choose that works best for your team is great. But the bottom line is that you gotta get to know your people and encourage them to talk amongst themselves. So those group projects, I think, are good. But there's also people that function better in the corner in their dark room, right? Finding a task specifically for them. And that's where I guess leadership would come into play. Like, how do I bring out the best of that person? But to what I said earlier, we still need that level of communication, right? So, I would just say, like, my short answer for advice is, like, you can't take things so personally, when we're talking about communication through tech or, not faced in person. But at the same time, taking the time to understand your people you can still do that through tech. But it might be, camera Tuesdays or something, or let's have a day in the life series where everybody talks about their role and responsibility, what they do from a day to day, so you understand, and then you can be empathetic, right? Like, oh, I didn't know you had to manage all those emails, or I didn't know you had to deal with that person every day. I'm so sorry. Let's commiserate about it. So that's just my initial thoughts, Ben.
And not that I want to jump to social skills for a second, but I do want to talk about it a little bit because I think Ben hits this point just a little bit. When we think about the generation behind us, right? We didn't grow up with tech. We learned tech somewhere in our lifespan, right? Some of us, it was elementary, some middle school, etc. The younger generation, they've had tech since they were knee high, right? And I think one of the challenges I see with that is their social skills, which are important in this remote work environment, is where they probably lack self-awareness and in understanding, right? And I think if I look at the root of Ben's question is, how do we help the younger generation understand the importance of these social skills, which is kind of at the bottom of your stack? But what do they have to do to actually get themselves ready to build those skills, right? And I guess it starts with self-awareness. And how do you go to that younger generation and get them to understand the importance of something like emotional intelligence to improve their social skills?
Man, Matt, that's the hardest question anybody's ever asked me. I wish I knew the answer to that one. I think, as far as my experience working with the younger generation on teams, I just, as a leader, I just went out of my way to get to know them and speak with them, and provide constructive criticism, open the door. How are you feeling? Is there anything that we can do better? Are you doing, is this too much for you? And that's where I go back. I know we're not talking about leadership in this question, but like, I still believe it takes somebody in that position to make the effort to like understand that so and so operates this way. So the leader being self-aware of that individual, and then by speaking with that individual and pulling that information out, they're helping that individual to be self-aware of themselves, kind of thing. Daniel Goleman is, I like to call him the godfather of EI. I've been like totally giving him free press. I need to give him a call because we need to get together. But he came out with the book EI, why it matters more than IQ, in the 90s. So I'm almost done with it, but it's pretty interesting. Just a synopsis. He argues traditional measures of intelligence are insufficient when it comes to measuring achievement. So like, somebody could have a high level of IQ, emotional quotient, or intelligence, excuse me, but have a low emotional intelligence. So like, they're super, super, super smart, right? They can count all the change in your pocket really quick, but they don't know how to talk to anybody, right? That's kind of what we're saying here. And on the flip side, so like, if we look some of the statistics and studies that Daniel Goleman has done over the years, because he has programs within schools. He's done research over years within grade schools, kind of to your point, like getting folks aware of what emotional intelligence is early, and understanding that, emotional intelligence is really what's going to get you to the next level. And I think you guys can all agree, like, I know I'm not the smartest, techiest person on my team, but I don't need to be, because I have those people on my team. So like, as far as having when you have a high level of emotional intelligence, you're able to communicate more effectively, understand situations, be able to advocate for your team, whether it's, additional resources, funding, understanding to meet people where they are, like public safety, like the airport, what have you, when I'm talking about the city departments. Having that high level of emotional intelligence can outweigh the significance in, being a higher intelligence level, period, right? Because you're able to look at, I think, bigger picture maybe a little bit more, and able to properly like articulate your needs, maybe by understanding and being that empathetic, having those social skills. So I think it's actually a really good book. I encourage everybody, check him out, Daniel Goleman, Godfather EI. But that's what he argues, that like emotional intelligence is way more important than intellect when it comes to understanding people, completing missions and goals. And even in the book, it even goes so far to say that people with higher emotional intelligence lead happier lives. And I agree with that, because going back to what I just said, don't take things so personal. Maybe they're having a bad day. You know what I mean? Like, it's not me. It's them. I'm good. It's fine. So like, some people just can't let stuff go, and that's where we continuously have to work on that, right? I'm always working on this. I get mad at people too, but I'm like, calm down, Jess, it's fine.
So Jessica,
Yeah.
how much of this now is where we are at as a society, right? Because we live in an instant gratification society. And when you look at these different pillars, 3 out of the 5 require patience and require you to kind of slow down and think through your reaction. So, self-awareness, you need to be able to recognize and understand how you're going to react, know yourself. That takes time, that takes patience, that takes introspection, right? You need to learn how to temper your communication based on, the different people that you're working with, right? And their personalities. To self-regulate, you have to be able to figure out how to calm yourself when things are getting heated or escalated.
Absolutely.
Empathetic, right? You need to take time to be able to build empathy. How do we deal and teach patience? Because patience is at the root of this, right? It really, really is. So how do we work with our team members before they react, before they hit that instant gratification trigger? How do we work with some of our staff on saying, let's take a step back? Let's think through this, right? How do you train people? How do you bring them into the emotional intelligence state so that way they can kind of think through versus react in this instant gratification society we're in?
Man, you guys have the best questions. This is so philosophical. Like, how do we teach patience? How do we? Oh my goodness, that's a great question. So something I can only talk about what I've been doing, or
Yep.
how, working with my team. But I actually suggested and have a couple of the team members reading the book Atomic Habits. I just got, and I'm we're talking about another one, essentialism. So like, just kind of sharing. I'm a big sharer. As you heard, I teach all that stuff, but I do mentorship programs too. Like, I believe, like, you don't know what you don't know, right? So I'm huge on, so I'm always sharing stuff with my peeps, whether it's books, articles, whatever. But like, just like having those conversations, like, hey, check out this book. Or I talked about this before in another session, and I was telling the team, like, yeah, I had this, like, just like, hey, emotional intelligence, let me tell you, I just, check this out. So like, just talking about it. And then I also, one of my favorite sayings, and it's kind of corny, I guess, but just finish strong. Like, we need to finish strong. And in that I feel like that rolls up into your patience question too, Jason, because, we might spend 6 months on a project and we're on that last mile and we're like, oh, let's just hurry up and get this over with. Or worse yet, we don't finish it all because we just move on to the next thing. And, we're all guilty of that. But I feel like that goes into the patience too. Like, just like, let's, again, live in the moment, kind of corny, but let's get it done, what we're doing right now, and do it the right way. I know that's not always a luxury in our line of profession. And there's incidents that we have to respond to, and situations where, I mean, there's pretty much every day there's something that happens, and we got, okay, all right, prioritize, check this out, we'll come back to this. So I think that it's just a lot of community, having that open communication. Like, let's talk about what our priorities are. Let's talk about, what our workload and resources are. Let's talk about how much more time you need and where you're at. What else do you need? I mean, I feel like I'm big on that. I'm big on, like, tell me if this is too much. I know there's a fine line between, folks taking advantage of that, but you can tell pretty quickly if somebody's taking advantage of that, right? But just put, again, creating that safe space. So starting with the leadership perspective, understanding from a emotional intelligence who your people are, who you're servicing, and then kind of, go from there, and, provide that. I know safe space is very broad, but when I say safe space, I mean a space where your folks are comfortable with pushing back, asking questions, telling you that they have problems, or, maybe saying, I don't have any more patience for this. I can't deal with it. Right. Just straight to the point and let's work through it. But, I just think that it really comes down to having that communication, having that safe space, and sharing the knowledge, sharing the good news about cyber. I get excited about cyber. I get way excited about cyber all the time. But this too, right? Let's get excited about this together and help each other out be successful.
I think as leaders, we have to be the example, right? Because otherwise, how else does the younger generation learn it, right? We want to be their mentors, but as leaders, we have to be the example, right? It shouldn't be do as I say, it should be do as I do, right? And I think out of everything I gathered in this interview, right, is as leaders, we need to set the example if we want to build the next set of emotionally intelligent leaders, right? We just do.
Absolutely. And just to add on to that, as far as good habits, one is lead. I think the first one is lead by example. So thanks, Matt, for bringing that up. Another one is setting clear expectations. I've learned with some of my other generational folks that it needs to be very clear. Sometimes I joke with my students, like, use your imagination, and they're like, we don't have an imagination. I was like, what do you mean you don't have an imagination? Like, use it. So being able to critically think is something that I think is kind of becoming a lost art to some degree. Providing meaningful feedback, creating supportive environment, the safe space I mentioned, encouraging accountability. And that's kind of where, again, communication, like staying on top of stuff with your folks, or not even micromanaging, because I hate that. I don't want to be micromanaged. I don't micromanage. But at the same time, I'm asking you, are you good? What you working on? Do you need anything? Because if you did, I want to be there to help you, right? So that kind of ties into the supportive, safe environment where I'm not being a micromanager. I'm asking because I want to make sure that you're good.
Awesome advice. Jessica, thank you so much for joining us on Business Security Weekly.
Yeah, this was great. It's already been up 25 minutes. Wow, that was...
I told you it's going to go fast.
Jessica, you just tuned me into a little bit of a new risk, right? When you have a group of students who say they can't be creative, that it automatically goes to how do I mitigate the risk of creativity driven by AI? Because that's where we're going, right? Their creativity is going to be all through artificial intelligence. Yeah. So for my young kids, I need to pull that AI away and make them creative, right? Allow them creative spaces.
It's scary, Jason. I'm telling you, I give just real quick. I do assignments in my classes at Penn State. I love my students. But I just tell them, like, I need you to do this and this, figure the rest out. They're like, whoa, what else? Like, they need a line by line. I'm like, dude, I even say you can use ChatGPT. That's fine. I'm cool with that. Just don't copy and paste. But it was a process. But by the end of the semester, I had them using ChatGPT and critically thinking. So it can be done.
Beautiful. I love it.
Well, we're going to send the young generation all to you, Jessica. Thank you again.
Bring it on. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Yes, we're going to take a quick break and then air our pre-recorded interviews from RSA Conference 2024 from Simpurius and Anxia Cyber. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week on Business Security Weekly.